Hello everyone, and today we are back for another top 5 video, and we're going to be talking about the top 4 Loomians from Route 5. Now, why are there only 4 Loomians on this list? It's because I am not counting the Loomians from the cemetery, as they will be part of their own top 5 in the future. So with that out of the way, let's head right onto this list. So, number 4 onto this list is going to be Avatr again. Yay! I get to talk about Avatr for the 4th time in this series. Well, it's horrible. My opinions have not changed the entire time. The problem is, Avatr doesn't hit anything. And yes, it has driving force. I know that. But it's really counterproductive because Avatr relies on rev up and its speed stat. But driving force gives you negative priority, meaning that you will always go last when you use that move. And that's literally the coverage move that hits everything air and electric doesn't hit. So, yeah, you can kind of see the problems with Avatr. Not to mention that its 2 main moves, Nosedive and Thunder Crash, recoil itself. And while it does have Perch to heal health back, it pretty much needs 1 move to get a Brawn boost to hit hard, and then it recoils itself. So it always takes at least half of its health, and then you recoil yourself, meaning that you kind of have to perch in order to keep your Avatr alive. Not to mention, this Loomian also is very frail, which means that it doesn't live too many hits to begin with. It does hit pretty hard in the very, very late game when there's 2 Loomians left, but there's nothing more than that, and that's why it's at the bottom. Number 3 onto this list is going to be Venation. Venation is not that good. And honestly, I had high expectations for Venation in the past. And honestly, it's done really well in the past. It has 142 melee defense, which is insane. But the problem is with Venation is that there are other melee tanks that can do the stuff better. If you want a better Sharp Edges user, you could use Fruitris. If you want something that has Battering Ram, just use Garbantas. It has Battering Ram and Body Crash. It has Soft Water for healing, but it's not consistent enough. It has Slumber, but it makes you vulnerable to ranged attackers. You do have Geyser that can burn the opposing Loomians, but there are Raging Flame Loomians that can stun them, and it's more consistent. You have Frostbeam coverage, but you have Luminami with Frostbeam coverage that can utilize it better. You can see the problems with Venation. It does have a solid roll. It does have Protective Shell, which can protect it from crits. It does have Sharp Edges. It can live melee hits really well, especially after a brace. I mean, it's soaking hits from a Tyrex really well. It is definitely a very solid melee tank, but the problem is that all the other Loomians always have a roll above Venation, and that's why Venation is only number 3 on the list and not higher. Number 2 onto this list is going to be Cenar. Now, people might be shocked that this thing is not number 1 on the list, and honestly, I was going to put Cenar number 1 until I used it recently, and it underperformed. Yes, I am not using the lazy Cenar, that could be the reason, and honestly, I think lazy is better than hasty, because the problem is with hasty is that even though you hit harder, so you're actually a threat, the problem is that you can often miss your attacks, which can be really scary. And while you do have Sharpen, you have to waste a move in order to get a Sharpen off. But the lazy Cenar has Talent Trade, meaning that you can pretty much give the lazy ability to another Loomian, which can be extremely useful. And Cenar is very bulky on both sides. It's usually used as a range tank, but it has more melee defense, which means it can be used as a melee tank just as well. This Loomian is honestly very good, and the fact that it also has fire and electric coverage definitely gives Cenar a massive advantage compared to other ranged tanks. But even then, even though it is a solid ranged tank, it does use a lot of energy because a lot of people use the heavy shield on it, so it does often lose on its energy way too fast. Despite that though, Cenar is still a very effective range tank, and it definitely deserves number 2 on this list. The best Route 5 Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy is Boro. Boro goes in the top spot yet again. It's the best Route 3 Loomian, and it's also the best Route 5 Loomian. There's really nothing else to really say about Boro. It's been good throughout the entire game's life cycle, and it continues to be good now. It can be used as a boast user. It's one of the best boast users in all of Loomian Legacy. Not a very good resilience user, but it can use resilience pretty decently, especially when you combine it with Body Crash and Health Amulet. It also has very good coverage. You have Earth Stab while also having normal coverage and also dark coverage as well, which is awesome. You have Body Crash, so you can utilize your melee defense to its advantage. Its speed stat is probably the only weakness for Borok, but even then, it has still a good enough speed stat that if you run specialty boots on it, Borok could still be a very devastating wall breaker. And if you run this thing with Power Cuffs, you could also run Quick Pounce, which is awesome priority. Priority on Borok is massive, especially if you get the Boast Boost. The only flaw with Borok is there are a lot more Loomians in the game that do have more melee attack than it. That does give Borok the minus boost. So Borok is going to struggle in the future, but right now, Borok is a very devastating wall breaker that can do a lot of damage, and it's number 1 on this list. Here it is, the best Route 5 Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. Now, keep in mind, this is only the Loomians in Route 5, as the next list will be in the Cemetery. So, we'll see what the top 5 Cemetery Loomians are in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, me talking about the top 5 Route 5 Loomians, and I'll see y'all all later. Bye-bye!